Hi, I'm Seamless, and today is Sunday, and this is the making of G Sharp Part 1, Arrangement Elements. Some of you might be confused as to why I'm doing G Sharp now and not doing Funk Fight now, and those of you who are in that group, of some of you, have forgotten, or at least never knew, that there's actually a playlist in my videos that's called Funk Fight from Scratch. That's because Funk Fight was actually one of the tracks from Scratch from a long time ago that I ended up finishing and putting on the album. So it has better than a making of. It has a making of from scratch that it's already done. You can watch it. It's like 20 videos from making it from the beginning down to the very end of what it ended up being. So now we're doing it in G Sharp. G Sharp was me trying to be metal again. And I don't really need to try to be metal because metal's where I came from. But what I try to do is I try to relate it to the electronic world in some way. In previous tracks, this was Death Blow, which had pretty metal relationships, and on this same album, Steel Core was also like that. What Steel Core and G Sharp share in common versus Death Blow is that G Sharp and Steel Core very much started out as being metal songs that integrated EDM elements versus Death Blow that is very much an EDM song that integrated metal elements. And the primary difference between how those work is mostly the way they're constructed and mixed and sound design, pretty much everything about them. So let's talk about this song. In the very beginning, we hear Superior Drummer. And while Superior Drummer was involved in Death Blow, because I involve in almost everything I do, it's very much front and center in Steel Core and this song because it's more or less just the entirety of the drums. There might be some layering that I'm doing. Nope, it's just the drums, only the drums. Whereas in Death Blow, it's kind of like an ambient layer. I'm using it mostly for its cymbals to give it that air feeling of like metal rock drums kind of deal on top of electronic drums. Not so here. Specifically, I'm using, let's see, Pearl free floating 5x14 snare 20x24 Sonor Thomas Hawk. Oh, I'm doing a layer. Okay, so I'm actually what's happening here is I have two different kick drums. I have this guy, which is the 20x24, and this guy, which is the 18x22. They both have characteristics that I like. However, they both also have characteristics that lack that the other ones have. So layering together makes it feel like the perfect kick drum for generally stuff that I like. So yay stuff. I believe these are mostly the same toms. No, they're not. They're all varying differently. The thing about toms is that I actually like, because in the past on my own band, I've done hybrid, triggered, and acoustic kicks for my recording, and I actually like my own recorded toms way better than I like any of Superior Drummer's toms. Although I still have some pretty old kits. This is the Metal Foundry kit, and I have the Avatar kit, and they're both just like the kits that come with Superior Drummer. And there's so many more into kits that they have for Superior Drummer that have a lot of much more modern, newer sounding things I just don't have. So I could be just like, shooting myself in the foot with that. I also have Metal Machine, which I mostly use for quick and dirty stuff. A whole bunch of cymbals, two different rides that I don't even think I used. I intended to use it, but I don't think I actually did. China, that kind of thing. We'll talk about how I set this up when we get to the mixing and mastering part, although I might just specifically speak on that during the sound design part, because in metal, your tones for drums and stuff like that are a big part of your sound design. Obviously, front and center when the song hits off is the guitar. But that's not really the whole story of the tone there, because we have the guitar, you have the bass guitar, which is actually a contact patch. So this is the Scarby J bass, both pickups, and the reason why I use that is because I have particular harmonics that I enjoy. And the way that I did this, just sort of to give you a prep for when the sound design part comes on, is that it's a combo clean bass sound and distorted bass sound. And distorted bass sound is close to what the guitar distorted bass sound is, just based on what the guitar rig is doing. There's a whole bunch of other crap happening inside what ends up being the guitar tone, but the general idea of it is present in the bass as well. And the whole point of that is so that the bass and the guitars kind of mesh together much easier as a result. And of course we have this. This is just a Reese. But here's something funny about this and about this whole song. The song is called G sharp because the guitar is tuned down the drop G. It's a drop G below E. It's not a high. It's not a high tuned song. It's a very low tuned song, obviously. The thing about that though is I was like, okay, cool. I wanna like reinforce the bass with some bass. So I put this down at the G sharp where I thought was bass. But the thing is though is that that's not in tune with the bass guitar. That's in tune with the guitar. The bass guitar is down there, and that's not gonna work. And like, I just didn't know that this was not the bass guitar until one time I was listening to the bass guitar, just being like, that doesn't sound right. But so then as a result, some of the actual what is for real sub bass is actually at the guitar level, which is just how it has to work. And this is the stuff you have to think about when you're picking what key your song is in. Most EDM tracks sit around E, regular standard E, and like F sharp, even higher than that. Very rarely they actually go lower. They kind of sit around D or D sharp. I've seen songs in C that work out pretty good. Seven Lions did some songs in B, and I once made as Steel Core was in A sharp, and this song is in G sharp. And there's just problems when you have bass that low, and it's mostly a mixing and mastering thing. We'll talk about how I dealt with that. It's mostly because I accidentally made the bass quote unquote guitar level, but that's okay because the guitar is kind of the main instrument, and that that sort of makes sense. And this guy. So this is I'm actually using the fade in on like the actual notes to fade in this weird sort of that's just Harmer. That's just Harmer doing that. And then like what this is a different MIDI channel. So when you're doing slide notes, it slides all the notes. If you had a chord, it would slide all the notes up and down. But if I have a different note, it won't, like a different MIDI channel, which you can do by choosing a different color up here. This is its own voice now. These are its own voice now, and they do not affect each other. So one of them can slide, and the other one cannot slide. The other one can also slide in different directions if you wanted to, which could be fun. And then right here we have a little filter action on the up here. I'm just moving around some stuff. That's really all there is to that. Is that the same thing? Am I? I'm not totally sure why there's two of those, but we'll find out during the sound design portion. And pretty much that's the entire song. And here's the fun thing about the song is that because I made it more like metal and less like EDM, it was basically a metal song with EDM tendencies, is that the palette is quite simple, because most regular metal music, the palette is quite simple. You've got your guitar, you've got your bass, you've got your drums, vocals maybe, and that's it. And that's pretty much what's happening in the song. And the reason for that is not because I could not do anything else. It's because I wanted. This is basically a test. This is me testing out the idea that I can do like super sort of just straight up metal EDM kind of thing and have it not sound bad. Because for the longest time, long before I made Deathblow, I always thought that combining metal and EDM was just the quickest way to make just shitty music. And I mean, Cell Dweller notwithstanding, some people could do it well, but it usually ended up being a particular kind of thing. And usually a different kind of EDM from what I'm making anyway. It's just the kind of EDM that I like doesn't play well with metal. That changed when I made Deathblow. And actually, when I made Deathblow, I also made Steel Core. I just didn't finish it until this album. And then I was like, okay, we'll see if I can push this farther. Let's try to make something a little bit more sort of traditional metal-ish, traditional, and combine it with real bare EDM and just kind of see how that goes. And that's what the song was. And it worked out. That's also why it's super short, because I didn't want to bore people by having like verse, chorus, of just the same thing for 6 minutes. So that's why it's not even 3 minutes. There's a lot of, you can see a lot of edits happening here. And this is actually something that I learned from Cell which you might have thought it just sort of is obvious from being a guitar player and doing recording. And it kind of is, but I never sort of just did it for my own stuff. I usually just let it go. I just let it be whatever I wanted to be. And I didn't really try super hard. Like right here. I'm usually okay enough to that if I do something simple enough and well enough that I can actually just do it fine twice. Because that's the whole point of double tracking, is that you record one guitar left, one guitar right, and then you put them together and you get that really big versus like. The thing is, though, is that you have to record the same part twice and like exactly timing perfect. Because if you don't, you get like this weird kind of spat. So that's what a lot of these edits are for, were to get it to line up. It's because for some reason, that part I wasn't perfect enough. And same thing with, what's going on near the end here. Some parts are easier than others, but what I'm talking about learning from SeamlessR is just like the hardcore editing. Just like, don't worry about it, just do it. The other problem with this is that because we're pairing it with perfect bass and perfect like synthy shit that's actually at the same level, it's at the same pitch, that I need a little bit of like untunedness with the guitar. Like you kind of heard it. Like around there. And that's just the nature of just how a guitar behaves at low tunings with almost not the right size strings. And when you play it, it just goes, bleh. And this is something that's solved entirely by the Evertune bridge, which I have now on a guitar that I did not have when I recorded this song. So there's a lot of that going on. And so you get this weird sort of re-sync going on. Like, just not super entirely perfectly patched together. But it kind of worked out because it sounds nice and evil and pretty, just hardcore sounding. Yeah, like it works for it, which is just a massive saving grace. Because it really didn't work for Deathblow. There were certain parts where, like, if it got out, it was bad, and I had to do it again. So there's a lot of corrections on that. This is really going to be a very uncomplicated song. So the next part will be just about as short as this part. But if you have any questions about it, let me know. As usual, have a nice day. I really hope today is Sunday.